The data center industry is moving faster than ever, and behind the scenes, some seriously smart people are making it all happen. Welcome to the Inside Data Center podcast, where we dive into the stories, insights, and innovations driving real change across the industry. From hyperscale campuses to game-changing technologies, we're talking to the people shaping the future of digital infrastructure. Whether you live and breathe data centers or just want to understand what's powering our connected world, you're in the right place. Welcome to Inside Data Center podcast. We're back on the terrace in Cannes. Seems like yesterday we were here a year ago.
Yeah,
Rory.
indeed.
Good to see you. I'm joined by Rory Flashman, my co-host. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
And we are today on the first episode in the sunshine, joined by David Bloom from KO Data Centers and Pete Hill, CUDO Compute. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning. Morning. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Oh, very continental.
That's as much French as you're going to get from it.
That's right. And that's our lot.
That's it. That's at the end of the podcast. I've only been here I arrived late afternoon yesterday, and I think one of the things people keep asking me about is NeoCloud and AI data centers and what's happening in that market. So hopefully we can get a bit of an insight from you both on the perspective of that side of the market. But to start with, does anybody want to take this question? Like, what does NeoCloud actually mean? Because I don't think many people actually know.
It's a catchy name, isn't it?
Yeah, it works. It's like when we used to say AI all the time, or edge data center.
No, it's a very good marketer out there. They've gone, look, we need to give this some kind of identity, right? It's a bit like the cloud when that came through in the first place. But it's in its most common form, it's a cloud service provider which is specializing in AI infrastructure. So that's the niche. It doesn't really go too far out of that. That AI infrastructure can extend up into services above as well. It can sometimes extend into services below, like the land and power. But it's all focused on kind of AI and providing that kind of overall AI factory, which is another one. AI factory sets up.
And David, do you think there's any, because what we're seeing is kind of the NeoClouds put over one side of the industry, developers, operators, kind of the more, I could call them standard data center developers in another side. Is there much difference?
Well, there are fundamental differences in my view, in the sense of, and it depends because everybody's feeling their way a little. These are relatively new businesses, a few years old in the main, and they're trying to work out precisely where in the value chain they sit, in the sense of, do they go all the way to construction? Or really, is this a GPU as a service layer and everything in between? And so actually, I think we're in the middle now of working that out. And obviously, shockingly, you'll hear that, Andy, I've got opinions.
That's why you're here.
I mean, it turns out, yeah. So I mean, I do agree that the NeoCloud branding is excellent. In the sense of it kind of bit matrixy, yeah. But actually, in reality, I always look at it as a difference between CPUs and GPUs. So, a traditional cloud is CPU. By the way, if you don't know these acronyms, please look them up at home. And the sort of GPU generation now is bringing that same kind of, what did we believe the cloud was? And unless you're my mates who thought it was like actually in the sky, bright bunch. Is that the cloud was really an infrastructure that was flexible and usable. And so all that we're doing now is building that for an AI age.
I mean, it's interesting, like you talk about the cloud, hyperscalers have been seen as like the kind of the dominant force in the data center industry for a very long time. And NeoClouds are now the disruptors. But obviously from your perspective, Pete, do you actually think NeoClouds are that disruptive, or do you think it's an evolution?
It's a bit of both. I think it's disruptive in that it's a kind of almost like a new layer that's come into the industry. But it's a new layer because there was a gap, right? And there's a gap to fill. And to David's point, Jensen talks about this. So this has come from a far smarter man than I about. But traditional cloud is you are accessing data. Whether that's kind of putting it into there for storage or retrieving it to be able to use your services. Whereas, NeoCloud, one of the GPU infrastructure and one of these AI factories is you are essentially creating a machine that has got one purpose, and that is to create tokens, right, to be able to use. So there's slightly different purposes there. So So NeoCloud is disruptive in the fact that there's this new layer, and because they largely they're startup businesses and they're coming in, they're scaling quickly, they've been more agile, they've been able to move quicker and fill that. But at the same time, it's extremely complementary as well. If you look at a lot of the custom base for these NeoClouds, it is coming from those traditional hyperscalers and other cloud service providers as well. Yeah. So there's a way that they can be, asynchronous with each other.
It's interesting that you say they're almost like complementary, because I think there's a perception in the market as well that like NeoClouds and hyperscalers can or do compete in some respects. I guess what you're saying is that that's not really the case.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, there's a level of demand out there in the market, and the actual number one driver is speed to generating token. So however that is achieved is often, what is driving the business at the moment. I kind of look at, even if you look at the silicon industry, right? Google is one of the biggest buyers of NVIDIA chips, but they're also building their own TPUs. Yeah. And, same with AWS and their Trainium and et cetera. So there's definite kind of competition in there, and, maybe that gets fiercer over the years as things get far more commoditized. But, right now it seems to be complementary as well.
Awesome. From like an infrastructure perspective or a data center perspective, are the facilities different? Because again, we're trying to, I guess, quash some misconceptions here, but are the data centers actually any different, or is it just the technology within it that's different?
Look, there are some noticeable differences. I mean, I would almost go as far as saying it's the 80-20 or 70-30 rule. 70-30 rule is something I invented, but
we're going with it.
Hashtag trademark. Yeah, we're still doing hashtags.
Occasionally.
We are now. We're bringing them back.
My kids always pick me up on these. It's like, Dad, no, don't say that anymore. Like, well, that was just only last week. I don't really understand. But anyway, point is that the data centers themselves, of course, are still large industrial buildings. But you have to think about it's really the density of the compute that's driving change, and the way you cool it. Therefore, floor loadings. I mean, really exciting stuff like that. Yeah, but it's actually quite an engineering challenge, because you've got a technology that is actually changing quite rapidly. There's from Blackwell to Vera Rubin to whatever else is coming, right? And simultaneously, you're asking your design and construction teams to build something that's going to have a 20 to 30 year shelf life. Yeah, so that's fun. Yeah,
when we don't know what technology is coming.
If you like that type of thing. Yeah. But certain things, right? So ultimately you want to think about, how am I bringing the stuff in and out of the building? Yeah. How am I powering it? How am I cooling it? How am I securing it? Yeah. How am I, the clusters are getting actually, so you're seeing these buildings in some ways, the footprint isn't drastically changing, but the ratio, right? So you're going to have almost in extremist terms, these like small white spaces, yeah, with just an amazing amount of compute in them, yeah, and then the rest of the whole building is just serving that bit of white space. So, but yeah, I mean, this is why we do what we do, because ultimately it's not as straightforward. This is not a real estate asset class. Don't tell anyone.
Don't say that too loud.
Yeah, don't say it too loud. But it's not, right, because you have to perpetually look at how you build your design, et cetera, and then there's the operational element. So when you put all of that into it, it's a lot more complex than build megawatts, sell megawatts.
I actually think that the new data centers are very similar to this lovely terrace here. Right? So about an hour ago, air cooling was sufficient. But now we definitely need DOC.
And now Andy's got some empathy, because before it was just sympathy, but now he understands how long you have to wait for power. Yeah. I mean, you order it, and then suddenly they're like, oh yeah, no, we said it was going to be next quarter, but actually
I've got real life experience.
Power, cooling.
That on my panel later. I'll tell you about power problems.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly.
South of France.
South of France.
We don't go, mate. So DLC, direct liquid to chaps, because these
100%. No, that's definitely something that you've coined there, and at least there on the power front, at least we only had to wait a couple of hours rather than months, I suppose, to get cracking. But let's talk about markets. Both of you, UK founded, headquartered companies. I I think it's JLL who have said something like by 2030, inference is going to be the predominant workload versus training. UK's got a host of problems, land, cost of energy, AI copyright, need I go on. Do you really think the UK can be a competitor in the AI market? And I suppose to that point, do you see inference or training being a predominant winner there?
So yes, I do think the UK can be a major player in the AI economy, global AI economy. First of all, there are certain things that are going to have to be done within the UK, right? And you can say that with any kind of country, right? For data sovereignty, there's sensitive information that will need to be retained within borders. There's latency that comes into that as well. Whilst the UK is a small place, right, which gives us the benefit of being able to choose multiple locations, that latency still needs to be very low for certain use cases. Not all of them, but certain use cases. But on inference, if you think about if there's going to be robotics happening in warehouses, or there's going to be high frequency trading that's using some kind of AI mechanism, then that stuff's going to have to be super low latency from that perspective. So answer your question, inference is going to grow, and I think we can all see the charts to see it will overtake at some point, because training, you're building that foundation for all the inference to work, but then the inference is actually the consumption of that, right? So that's when the applications are all embedded and people are using that in their day-to-day lives, whether that's for work or pleasure. So absolutely grow. I think the UK, from the constraints we have in the UK, right, we've kind of alluded to, is on the power side from a cost, but also from a capacity point of view. The solutions around that as well, I'm sure David can talk more to that, but there's behind the meter solutions that can work. If we're looking out 5 years, are we seeing more sovereignty over our power development and generation within the UK as well? More renewables, we're seeing gravity drop batteries coming in. We're going to get SMRs by the kind of mid 2030s. So there are solutions out there, I think, that we probably need to capitalize on as a country to get them accelerated. But there's certainly ways where we can provide more independence around that power and take away some of those constraints, and at the same time, bring the costs of power down competitive to our neighbours.
Nice. And then Dave, from your perspective, obviously you've got expansion in Harlow, new site in Park Royal, Greater Manchester. What are you seeing? Is it demand for hyperscale cloud, like a neo clouds, inference workloads, or do you think that the UK can win in the training race?
So I mean, I too positive about the UK outlook in general. I accept, and as you know, we have been involved very much in the dialogue around this with UK government, Tech UK. We don't shy away from the fact that there are challenges here. But infrastructure is a long game. You're going in for the long term, and in the long term, the dynamics for the UK haven't really changed in terms of its geographical positioning between America and Europe, the connectivity that runs through it, the skills base that it's got. And obviously, English is still quite a universal language. So if you take all of these things together, that's why London, the UK in general, is still a good bet. And okay, are we going to be an inference island? Possibly. We could debate whether actually training is a good use of land in the UK. If you think about it, is that if I have an abundance of it, I've got fields and fields in whatever, Texas, then I'm not really doing anything else with it. But the UK is a different animal, and Europe as well. I mean, it's a classic really, because this is where you've got to know your local markets. Distributed compute in Europe is kind of a must. Because you're not lopping down, 5 gigawatt campuses. You're just not. Sorry, I'll caveat that with not in the sort of 10-year horizon I think we're discussing here. In the sense of it, both in terms of power generation, but also kind of the use of land, right? So you've got to do something different. You can't just come here and open another Starbucks, because the locals will take one sip and go, that tastes like
Starbucks.
Sorry, but I didn't realise it could be the core sponsor of.
We're open to sponsorship from other coffee suppliers.
Exactly. So if you're a coffee company and you're out there and you really want to stick it to the competition, sponsor this podcast,
touch.
I get in touch. But yeah, so I suppose my overarching point here is that actually the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. And yes, we have to innovate, and it's our responsibility as well as an industry to educate, innovate, engage in this dialogue, help solve problems. Yeah, we can't just sit there and go, yeah, here are all the problems, you deal with it, right? We've got to come up with innovation, but that's, again, we're quite good at that. So at the end, I would almost we talked about sort of the change in the cloud, neo cloud, etc., which would traditionally be called an arms race, but actually in this case it's an arm race, because a UK company, Arm and Cambridge, are the backbone of a lot of this, right? So we are capable of this, and we've done it before, we will do it again, but it requires somewhat coordination, actually, which is, I know you guys are quite involved in that. When I say you guys, because this is a podcast, I mean Rory and Andy. We need to engage, and we don't possibly do enough of that.
Yeah, and I think part of the misconception why the UK and other key hubs, so take Germany, Amsterdam, etc., are perceived as not as busy, is because they're not getting the headlines with the 2 gigawatt campuses. That's what people see.
Yeah,
that's what the media like, and that's what the people see. So I think there's such a huge market underneath all that that's sort of being pushed down the headlines now, and that's why there's a bit more of a misunderstanding around these markets are still very, very busy. It's just a different type of busy.
Yeah, but I mean, let's really sort of dig in a bit. Like, but a lot of this is braggawatts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this.
I still want that spreadsheet of what's announced and what's delivered. Yeah, it's just a lot of work.
We have this lovely phrase of but not billing in the sort of financing world of data centers, but it's missing a fundamental B. Yeah, but we're not billing, we're not built. Yeah, and built's pretty bloody complex.
And a lot of them are now announced pre-funding.
Yes,
they're announced like, we're going to develop a 1.5 gigawatt data center campus in X location. Yeah, they haven't even got funding.
And I tell the team all the time, the thing is that our job, especially as established around this table, as established players and veterans in the industry, our job is to listen to the music under the noise. Yeah, we've been in this a while. We've got businesses to run, good businesses, and we're growing. And cannot get distracted by the just sheer volume of noise, because in the end, what will win out? Reliability, delivery, and consistency. And that's across everything. And that's also, again, why, back to the question about the UK, is that we have a history of traditional stability, the ability to deliver. So yes, do we have to get back on our A game in some areas? Absolutely. But it will happen.
I was at an awards evening recently, and one of the awards was Greenfield Project of the Year. And I just imagined a load of judges stood around the field thinking, I love the vision.
The Greenfield Project of the Year.
Well, we should congratulate you on your award as well.
Non-launched Business of the Year. Yeah.
That's a new category for me.
Heart of the Press, CUDO, picking up
congratulations.
an award last night.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Should congratulate you on
Thank you.
while we're here.
Yeah, no, look, it's a particularly special award, Andy, because it really is. And the reason being is it ties in a little bit to what we should be doing more of. So I can take no credit for this. This is all the hard work of the team, particularly Lizzie, Adam, and all of the construction and design team. We engage, and we've been doing this before it was sort of cool. In the sense of engaging locally. Like, we have to be part of these communities. We can't be this big scary thing that's coming into their community, and it doesn't need to be like that, right? I mean, I'll give you an example, which is a part of our submission, in the sense of the Stockport, where we're the Greater Manchester area, where we are building out our facility. Due to the work we did in that community, and then the seed fund that we launched, etc., we got universal support. Which is kind of unheard of in reality. We see a lot of these headlines of objections and pitchforks and blah blah blah. And reality is I actually really believe it's because there's no investment going into investing locally, helping people understand why this is a benefit to them. We got to do our jobs, right? We can't just from a lofty place kind of go, no, this is national interest. Yeah, step aside, right? Most people, as we see in like the local, people just gone by the local elections, right? At the end of the day, people want their bins collected. Yeah, that's what it's about, right? And if that's not working, they don't care about geopolitics or any of this other stuff, right? Or digital infrastructure. So we as companies have to show how we are additive to those communities, how we create opportunity in those communities, and how we regenerate. I mean, Harlow's a great example. That site was the heart of the community. It was Nortel Networks. It was there for 50 years. Prior to that, it was SDC Labs. Like, you had in the town, like the Nortel playing fields, the Nortel Country Club. Like, they were like embedded, in the DNA. And when they went, like that overnight, it was devastating, right? And our job has been not just to, deliver our scheme, but to bring some of that back to the town. And we've worked, we have a really good relationship, two-way relationship with the council there. We've done a lot of that, and it's great to see. I mean, so I'll stop here. But the point is that local council swept the board, at the last election, and not just because of us, but because of the work they do, public-private partnerships, and really focusing on what the town need. So I think I want to see more of that.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I think there's so much, we could talk about that all day. There's so much this industry can do from a community perspective. And there are, like you said, just great things happening out there. We just need to talk about more, which hopefully we can help. From a capital perspective, obviously the amount of capital required in this sector now is just skyrocketing. It seems to be at a zero every other week. Has that changed the way we are now, or has it changed the market? And has it changed the way we're now building data centers? Because the amount of capital required in order to, obviously the investors need to get their return. Mm-hmm. Is it changing the way we build these facilities?
But that is a question for me. Look, simple answer. Yes, it has to. Again, back to that innovation point, we need to find, build costs have gone up generally, scale's gone up. So as you say, the amount of capital you need to deliver a 50 or 100 megawatt data center is, funnily enough, 5 to 10 times the amount that you need to deliver a 10 megawatt data center, using my sharp mental maths. But it's more than just that, in the sense of what we need to look at is time to market, how we're delivering these things, as we talked at the beginning, how robust they are from a longevity perspective. And so how's that going to happen? I mean, that's really the question. Is we can all say, yeah, that needs to happen. Well, I think number one is we need to embrace more the idea of just-in-time delivery for things. So how are we designing these data centers to be that even more granular, even more modular, and also looking at how we everything from the materials we use to the way that we generate energy. So obviously this is going to be a big point at this conference of power. And Rory touched upon it. Everybody's touched upon it. The bottom line is that power is scarce, right? So we need to find ways to A, use that as efficiently as possible, and B, is generate more clean energy. Yeah, and whether that is local, via microgrids, things like that. So, and this is again, it can't just be coming from one part of the industry. It's the operators, it's the data center builders, it's the end customers, and we've all got to, I suppose, also not just do what we did last time. Yeah. So, for example, controversial subject, does and should a data center rely on a grid connection? It's actually, we need to move away from that. And now there'll be gasps out there in the audience, because can you imagine going to a customer and saying they're not going to have a grid connection? However, this all depends on the robustness of the power generation. Yeah, and actually that way, there's also benefits if we're putting in and creating power generation. We can also potentially do that back to the local story for the locale. So we've got to start thinking a little bit more laterally, but it's difficult to do because everything you've also got to deliver the day to day, which is really busy. So it's kind of, how do you step in and out and keep moving forward at the same time?
I think from a financing point of view as well, right? If I take the kind of neocloud view on this, you've got absolutely the kind of data center layer, and that's usually working with a partner like a KO Data, for example. But as I said, a lot of neoclouds are kind of starting to move into some kind of data ownership as well. So let's call that a round number, right? Might be say 10 million a megawatt or something in that region. Then you've got, if you fill in that with the GPUs, that's anywhere between 6 to 10 times more than that, right? So, and then you look at the kind of different assets from a GPU point of view, you're generally speaking, you'll depreciate them over 5 years, whereas the data center might be depreciated over 10 years or something like that. So you've got this kind of disparity there. So a lot of the reasons why there's operators out there, and we kind of jest about it beforehand of saying, we're shovel ready, hopefully they've got the permits and hopefully they've got, but they're shovel ready, because pressing the button on all of that is an enormously expensive thing to do before you've got a contract, and be able to get that money from the banks or whoever your financing partners is difficult. The same goes on the GPU layer, but that's a different set of financing partners. So getting all of these kind of stars to align, just to get kind of one contract sometimes, because a lot of these buildings are being built for single tenancy now, it's an interesting challenge.
Complex.
It certainly is. Yeah.
Not easy, as I always say. It's certainly not easy.
Well, look, chaps, appreciate your time. Talking of time, we are up. So the last very marketing question for you. How's the event been for you, and what are you excited about seeing over the next couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, the event has just started, really. I think this is actually, in my case, the very first thing. I had a nice swim in the sea this morning, so that's put me in the right kind of mindset for the rest of the few days. And it's going to be, all meetings up here on the terrace in the blazing hot sun, unfortunately.
It's some director chaps calling.
Director chaps calling, yeah, absolutely.
And David, how about you? Your wall win last night, big highlight.
Yeah. So we got off to a good start. So that's great, and it's great. I one of the things I really enjoy is actually catching up with the people. Having been at this event in one way, shape, or form for the past decade, it's just the people that you kind of see from year to year or every few months at these events, and it's just nice to catch up. So that sounds a very kind of self-centered and non-business. But it's not. I mean, it is a networking. I think networking is really important. I mean, what am I looking to get out of it? But I'm not a believer that that change is something that is supposed to be massive. Yeah, in the sense of you change happens one step at a time. It's micro gains. If you look at any high quality sports team, like Arsenal, for example. Hey, got it in the end there. Yeah, that's right. If you look at any high quality sports team, when it comes to this type of level, which we're all playing at, it's the marginal gains that start that.
It's all about set plays.
Yeah, it's all about set ole, right? Yeah. So to me, I'm here looking for that next bit of marginal gain. Yeah. How do we keep tightening the screws, making sure that we're just optimizing, and that will lead us. Yeah, it's not about going from I was building in Harlow, now I'm building on Mars. Not in my purview. And so that's what I'm kind of here talking to people about.
Nice. So in the world of AI, humans are still buying from humans.
Good. Absolutely.
The most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. And some of us will become artisan cheesemakers, which I'm looking forward to.
I'll take that when you find the ARS.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we'll end on that one. Thanks both. Enjoyed it.
Very much. Thank you very much.
Go and find some shade. That's it for this episode of the Inside Data Center podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This show is brought to you by DataX and Data Exec, the recruitment partners powering global talent across the data center and digital infrastructure world. If you enjoyed today's conversations, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. It really helps us grow the podcast community. Stay tuned for more stories, insights, and conversations with the people shaping the future of our industry.